Howdy folks, it's Sean here, and I just want to talk about my piano for a little bit because I haven't talked about my piano on the channel since I've gotten it. And I do get a lot of questions about it. Everyone's like, wow, that piano looks so nice, it sounds nice. And then they see it's a PETROF, and they either don't know anything about PETROF or they don't know what PETROF really is. Some people hear PETROF and they're negative and they're say, oh, isn't that budget economical brand, the poor man's brand? Why would you want a PETROF? But then I'll have other people say, PETROF, isn't that like best kept secret, super high-end, expensive, really good piano? And of course, those are completely opposite statements. And I don't hear much in between. I just hear one extreme or the other. What prompted this video, to finally make this video, after answering all those questions, is I was at a music store for my kid for his clarinet. I was sitting down playing piano a little bit while I was waiting, and the salesman came over and he said, oh, I can tell you're a player. What do you have at home? And I said, oh, I have a 1998 PETROF Model 4 with a Chippendale case. And he looked at me and he gave me a look. He's like, why would you own one of those if you play like you do? So then I had to explain and defend PETROF for 20 minutes and explain that my piano actually is a very fine, refined, dialed in, high-end instrument, and I had to educate him on PETROF. Of course, he is obligated by his employer to make sure their two brands that they sell are the best brands since sliced bread. But given he's been in the industry selling things for 30 years and he didn't know anything about PETROF except for their perceived reputation from the 70s and 80s and knew nothing about PETROF today or in between, it's kind of frustrating. So that's one reason why I'm making this video. But before we talk about the piano, oh yeah, this is going to be a very wordy video, by the way, because that's how I do things. Just in the description, you can jump around. I have time codes down there. So first of all, before I talk about this piano, who in the world am I other than some random person on YouTube with 400 subscribers who plays piano and talks about his piano? Who am I? Where do I come from? Well, my background, I used to be a professional pianist and I used to make a full-time income from piano and music for a couple decades. And by professional, I mean performed, recorded, collaborated, teach, accompanying, coaching, engraving, and engraving music for Finale. I have quite a few pieces out there that are engraved by me and things like that. So I used to do it all and actually made really good income from being a full-time professional musician. But then health happened and I have a heart condition that caught up to me. It's genetic. And one day I woke up and I literally couldn't play other than just peck at the notes like I'd never seen a piano before. And I had a concert scheduled and recording studio time. I was actually going to record a few albums for some still living composers. Had to call everybody, email everybody, say, hey, I suddenly can't play piano. And I had to cancel everything. And it was a low point, but that's just how it goes. And from then until now, I've been playing little more. I'm not ever probably going to be able to play fancy, flashy stuff like I used to, but my playing is, or not my ability, but what I'm able to do is getting better and better every day. So right now, what I do is I have a different day job now, but what I do for music is I record for YouTube and I take early advanced, late intermediate stuff and just put a professional musicianship spin on it and make the recording, not necessarily the audio quality because they don't have professional microphones, but the musicianship, I try to make as professional as I can. And it shows because people will leave comments on pieces that are like, air quotes, easier. And they'll say how refreshing it is to hear somebody put so much care and craft and musicianship into music and not just ignore that stuff and just put videos of the crazy fancy stuff, which I don't care about anyway. So to me, that's quite a success. If people understand what I'm doing and they comment on it, it's very, very cool. So that's what I do now. I also teach adult hobbyists. So I have a few adult students who are regular students, and then I have some adults that just come by whenever they feel like they need a lesson. Advanced students, late intermediate students. It's just a hobby thing on the side, hobby job. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about the piano now. But before I talk about this piano, I'm going to talk about Petrof as the company, because again, some people think they're this economical budget brand and they're garbage. Other people think they're like super high-end, unobtainable, boutique-y stuff. And let me tell you what they really are. So starting with Petrof today, they're very high-end and expensive. Of course, everything I say in this video, some based on opinion, some based on fact. It's up to you to decide what you want to do for yourself or what you think. But this piano in front of you, this Petrof 4 in Chippendale case, obviously isn't made anymore. They had a redesign, rebranding, renaming everything. And this piano today would be called a Breeze. Still 5'8", 173 centimeters, which is like 5'7.8 inches, so 5'8", whatever. So if you put them side by side, to most people, they will look exactly the same. If we had this piano at the current incarnation or current version of this piano, the Breeze, it would still look exactly the same. Of course, it's been upgraded and redesigned, but the Breeze, which is not this, the Breeze today, in this case, is $110,000. That's how much you would pay for it. If you got like a satin or ebony black normal case, it would be $82,000, I think. So, you know, put that in your hierarchy of pianos. Remember, with pianos, you get what you pay for. So if you have a $20,000 new piano versus a $90,000 new piano, you get that $70,000 difference in quality. Pianos are not artificially priced. You get what you pay for. So $110,000 for this piano today, the new version in this case. So going back to my piano, this piano you see in front of you, sold in 1998, sold for $36,500. Put that in today's money, I think that's $67,000 or $68,000 that this piano in today's money cost out the door in 1998. So that is a lot of money for a grand piano of this size. This piano has upgraded action, which we'll get into. It has upgraded strings and a few other upgrades that were from the factory. And so was it worth $65,000, $67,000 in today's money? I think so. Of course, I don't have to pay that because I got it used, but that's what it would have been in today's money out the door. So that's not very economical budget for a grand piano, considering in 1998 you could get grand pianos for $6,000. So $6,000 in that money versus $35,000 and that $36,000 in that money. This is not an economical budget garbage piano, right? Because you get what you pay for in piano dollars. So then, why do Petrofs have that reputation? Well, because before this era, so older than 1997, older than 1998, Petrofs were kind of questionable. They were using their Daytona action, which they still, well, I don't know if they still use it today, I think they might, but for a while, even beyond this, they used the Daytona action. They weren't offering Renner yet. They were low-cost, economical pianos. They were under government ownership type thing. You can read all about Petrof and the takeover and retakeover and all that. I'm not getting into that. But prior to this era of piano that you're looking at, they were kind of questionable. So I personally wouldn't have touched a Petrof older than 1998 or 1997. I think 1998 is the big changeover year. So I wouldn't have touched one. But I knew enough about Petrof that when this came up, and in this case, which was fantastic in my 1939 living room, I'm like, I'm gonna go for it. So I checked it out. It was okay. It wasn't played much, but it also wasn't voiced or regulated during that time. So I had the dealer do some work on it for me. It was good enough. I had it brought home. I've had my technician refine it over the past year and a half, 2 years. And right now this piano, the one you're looking at, is completely dialed in. Everything is absolutely perfect and is probably the finest Petrof I personally have ever played in my life. I haven't played a whole lot though, so I don't think that's too far-fetched to say that. I have played some of the older ones that were garbage, and I played a newer Petrof 3 before they changed the rebranding. That was it was crazy. It was amazing, but this one is and I've played other Petrofs out in the wild, obviously, but this has now become, for me, the finest example of a Petrof I've ever played. So that's the Petrof history, right? The new stuff, crazy expensive, super high end, not even obtainable for a lot of people. And then you have the era I purchased this piano from, 98 to 2009. Very, very good instruments, still pretty high end, maybe not, you know, the super tier 1 stuff, but they're quite high end, very nice instruments. Again, because this has the upgraded action and strings. If this piano did not have the Renner action, if it had the Daytona action, I probably wouldn't have touched it, because I don't think Daytona actions were very good until like 2009-ish. I think that's a consensus, but whatever, you can Google all you want. So if this piano did not have the Renner action, I would have gotten it. So it has a Renner action, another upgrade, so that's why I got it. And then older than this, no way. Wouldn't touch them with the 10-foot pole. So there's your summary of Petrof. So let's get into this piano. I kind of already did though, but those of you skipping around, let's talk about my particular piano. 1998, Petrof 4, so it's 5'8", Chippendale case. Has the Renner action, has upgraded strings. Some people in air quotes say it has Steinway strings. I personally don't care, but they sound great. I've had it voiced here and there. It's bright for me, or brighter than I thought I would like. I normally would have preferred like toned down, voiced down quais, that type of sound from the 90s, like a 1996 quai voiced way down was always my favorite sounding piano. But I got this, or I was playing this, I'm like, it's bright, but I love it because it isn't a piercing bright like some of the mid-range brands I won't mention. It's a clear, crystal sounding bright. I don't want to say bells because it doesn't sound like a bell. It's just clear, crystal. Even with the really short strings on a 5'8", you hear the sounds perfectly. A lot of pianos that high, you just hear like the sound. It sounds like you're just hitting wood with a hammer when you get that high, but not on this piano. Every single note is crystal clear. And my students, when I had more students, always complimented it. They're like, my piano doesn't sound like this and it's the same size. You know, that type of thing. Regulation dialed in. When I first got it, it was doing this weird thing where the hammers would jam up a little bit because whoever had it before me had the action or the let off raised really high, probably to make it feel lighter. That's the only thing I can think of. So I've had all that brought down to spec. The action feels like medium heavy to me and to everybody who plays it, but when my technician did the weight test, it's right in the middle of the range of actions you would typically find. But I love it. People say Petrof has heavy action. This one does feel heavy, but the numbers say it's in the middle. So I love it. It's perfect. Now it's not stiff, it's heavy. Heavy actions, you get more control. Stiff actions are a mess, but I love moderately heavy actions. The pedals all work just fine, obviously. Full true sostenuto, of course. Not all grand pianos have a true sostenuto though, gotta be careful. Soft pedal was never used. The unicorda was never used. So I had to break that in. So what would happen is the voicing would sound beautiful normally, but with it, and it slides over and hits different parts of the hammer, it was sounding terrible, but I didn't want my technician to voice that part of the hammer because it could screw up the other part. So I've just been playing with unicorda a lot just to break it in, and it's starting to sound absolutely fabulous. Because remember, unicorda slides it over. In the really olden days, it would move from like 2 strings to 1. That's where the unicorda comes from. Modern pianos, it would slide over, so you go from 3 strings and only hit 2. But really what's going on now is you're still really hitting 3 strings. You're just using a different part of the hammer. So it depends on the piano. A lot of everybody on YouTube will say, oh yeah, it goes from 3 strings to 2. But does your piano really go to 3 strings from 2? Usually it's just using a different part of the hammer. And you're still hitting all 3 strings. And it's a voicing thing, by the way. It's a color pedal. It's not a soft pedal. It changes color. But enough of that tangent. So anything else about this piano? Super clean. I've been cleaning it up. I normally keep it clean regularly, but after my heart surgery, I had to take a break. Tuning is incredibly stable. I do tighten unisons myself. So my technician will go through it, and then it'll settle in a little bit. Unisons will go out of tune a little bit. That's normal. I will tighten them up. You can hear my recordings. Sometimes I'll miss one because I will hear them as fine, but the overtones that the microphones pick up will pick it up a different, part of the overtone series might be stronger through the microphone, and all of a sudden you realize that unison is not in tune, even though in person it sounds fine. But when the microphone analyzes the wavelengths, it's not really in tune totally sometimes with the unisons. But I tighten them up myself. Anything else? No wheels on this. So once you set it down, it stays there. Everything works perfectly. It's perfectly beautiful. I have a bench, a really nice bench, by the way, that the cats sit on, and then they jump off of it and scratch it when they jump off. The bench that came with it is an Italian bench. Very, very nice bench, actually. It's kind of a duet bench. Right now, it's just holding my music because it's more comfortable and it's easier to raise up and down for students. Where this, you have to, spin the thing and dial it in. I do have a lamp on it, of course, which I adjust so that the shadow lines up right here, because that's a problem with these lamps, is it creates a shadow. I know they have lamps now with a flexible gooseneck. You can bring it out further so it gets rid of the shadow, but no big deal. Nothing to do with the piano. Otherwise, I think that's all I need to say about it. I talked about the company, the new stuff, the middle stuff, the old stuff. I talked about who I am and where I'm coming from. I talked about why I made this video. I was never going to make this video. I thought about it for 2 years. But at this point, I'm like, I just need to make this video. And so now maybe the hundreds or thousands of you who watched this and got to the end, you now know what PETROF is. They started with a bad reputation, but it's not deserved because that was 40 years ago or older, 40 or more years ago. Now, super high end. I mean, they're mass produced. They're not like, they're handmade, but it's not like they only make a couple a year. They make a lot of pianos. So there you go. If you want a super nice high-end piano and you want to buy the new one and you can pay 6 figures, go for it. But if you see one from this era in the 90s and up, go for it. As long as like any piano has been maintained. You can have the best piano in the world. If it's not maintained, it's garbage, right? So there you go. You might be wondering, well, how much does this cost used? Well, they're all over the place depending where you live. But this piano, in good condition with upgraded action and things in this case, goes for about 15 to 18,000 right now used, roughly. Be careful that it has the render action though. So there you go. Hopefully that worked out for you to learn something today. As soon as this thing gets tuned in a couple weeks, I'll be recording a bunch more stuff. So if you want to know when that new stuff gets recorded and brought online, you'll need to be subscribed and notifications turned on. And hit the like button anyway, just so people know I exist here. And happy piano playing, and I'll catch you later.